prop firms, like you said, are everywhere now these days, but they're still one of the easiest ways to be able to scale up your own trading. Let's say you take someone who has like $10,000 in capital, you won't be able to maybe afford trading full time with it. Because of course you got a gains. Let's say even if you make 100% of that per year, it's not gonna be enough to pay your bills plus grow your account. So then you're kind of stuck in that place. You could go and save money for like years at your job, and like you can do that. I know people who did it for many years. They will work like a pretty good job, save a few $1,000s a year, then invest that in trading, then go full time like 10 years later. But platforms allow you to do it much faster, and that's a good thing, of course. But you need to understand that they're also there to make money, right? So they're going to make
Of
money on the
course.
challenges, and they're going to make money on the training performance. Not all, but most of them will do it that way. So that means that if you're able to pass a challenge and get funding from them, then that's good. You just have to respect the rules. And that's really where risk management comes into play. Like there's a lot more risk management when you trade for a prop firm compared to trading for your own account. Because yeah, you can have a drawdown on your own account. You can have a little bit more of a drawdown bigger than you expected, and then you can recover, and that's fine. But the prop firms are going to be much more strict because of course they have to make money. They have some rules around it. They cannot just lose a bunch of money on one trader and then kind of be stuck with it after. So risk management is the key thing, and really being able to, I would say, what have the most like building a portfolio.
Hey guys, welcome back to the podcast. Today I am here with Etienne, who of course many of you guys probably know him. Desire to Trade, his YouTube channel is fantastic, where he interviews traders, professional prop firm people, all sorts of different people in the FX industry. And we're super excited to have him on the show today and ask him some questions. Etienne, welcome.
Yeah, pleasure. Happy to be here, of course, as always.
Yeah. So Etienne, I just want to give you just a chance, in case people haven't seen your content or heard about you before, give us just a little rerun about who you are and sort of what you do in the Forex world.
Yeah, so my name is Etienne Crete. I'm from Canada. I'm usually traveling around the world trading the forex market. So I'm primarily a swing trader. So I trade kind of longer time frame, a little bit more. And I've been interviewing traders for the past, well, it's been like 8 years or so. It's been a while, maybe 9 years. So where I was kind of interviewing traders on a weekly basis, sharing the lessons, teaching people how to kind of apply these lessons of their own term in trading. That's what I've been focusing on the past few years.
That's fantastic. And a little just side note. So I've been on YouTube for about 3 or 4 years or so. And when I first got it started on YouTube, Etienne's channel was one of my favorites, and it's still to this day. It's great. It's a great channel. It was one of my favorite channels. And I actually got a chance way back in the day to spend some time on interviewing you, which was awesome. So it's really kind of full circle to have you back on content and do another little episode together. So what I'd love to ask you, Etienne, is I kind of want to just pick your brain, because a lot of people who are watching this content, listening to podcasts, they would probably benefit from hearing from you, given that you've spent so much time interviewing professional traders. I wanted to ask you, in your own words, from everything that you've learned and in your conversations, what's been some takeaway moments or takeaway lessons that you've learned that you think new traders should hear about?
You know, there's so many things you can think about when it comes to like trading properly, like learning from the good traders. So many lessons, but I think one that probably sticks to most, that I think is really one of the most important, is kind of like creating your own path. Like there's all these people online who are going to teach different trading style, different things they do, but you have to, I think, at some point create your own thing in trading. You cannot just kind of copy other people because that's never going to work. I think traders are too focused on trying to pick what works and then using it on their own, but they should maybe try to create their own method more, try to create what fits for them more. Because sometimes it's usually going to be a lot better if you kind of create something that works for you, and you just use it for yourself, than trying to like pick rules with people who that they use. These rules might not work well for you. They could be different. Like we all have different mindset, different personalities, different things we like to do, different things we hate to do. And I think creating your own approach, your own method to trading, or own plan, or own systems kind of make a lot more sense. So
No,
that's one of the
those are
biggest ones.
great points. Those are great points, because I think, just listening along to your podcast over the years, you've had so many different types of traders on. You've had day traders, swing traders, scalpers, automatic traders using robots. I mean, there's just been such a wealth of different people. And so to hear it from you, it's like after you hear from so many different people, to find that, sort of common theme of like, well, there's many different paths and there's not one correct path. There's many ways to sort of figure it out in trading, and whatever sort of suits you best is key. So with all those conversations, how did you find your style? Like with what you do now, you mentioned you're a bit more on the swing trading side. How did you find that component was most comfortable to you?
Yeah, I kind of did it the other way around, like the way I kind of teach people now not to do it necessarily. But I began with kind of picking some strategies I found online that I like, that things that kind of resonate with me more. Bunchman was a tool that I kind of learned many years ago that made a lot of sense to me because of probabilities and all these things around it. So it kind of makes more sense to me. So I picked that, kind of learned a few strategies around it. Then over time, I started to trade these things, but didn't really like it too much. So I kind of made it my own over time, and I kind of adjusted some filters, some things I like better, some market environments I like to trade better, some rules that make sense for me, and kind of adapted from there. So now it's a mix of swing trading. Now it's also with algos these days a bit more, but it's a mix of bunch band with zones in the market, sports versus areas, and some kind of price action I like, and that makes sense for me. So yeah, it's been
That's
adapted
great.
over the years.
Yeah, no, I like that, and that's it's always interesting to hear the style that people land on, because of course, like I said, there's so many different paths to go down. And turning to another question, I think that's probably a pretty interesting one. You've spoken to probably also lots of different risk tolerance levels, people who are more aggressive, people who are more conservative. What has been a common theme in terms of like, average monthly performance, or what people generally can sort of expect, like to a new trader from all your journey? What would you say is like, what is a good trader, what is a bad trader in terms of monthly percentage, how they risk, what kind of capital size, in terms of risk management? What are some of the lessons you've learned along the way?
Well, there's gonna be no right and wrong answer on this one. So it's gonna be dependent on what you like, what makes sense for you. But all traders would agree, all the ones who are successful would agree on the fact that it's not about control. It's not about like aiming for profits. It's about controlling your risk. So looking for a lower risk in the market. If you just look at the return, like what you can expect, how much money you can make per month, that's a recipe for losing money in the market. So start by controlling your risk. Start by looking at what you're comfortable losing. And most people are gonna probably overestimate that. So you think you can lose 20% of your account easily and you'll be okay and fine because you can recover after. But in reality, you might be at like maybe 10%, maybe half of that. So if you think you can lose 50% of your account, which is a lot to recover after, maybe aim for like half of that, because then you can become you'll be more comfortable with that.
Hmm.
So traders who are successful make anywhere from 2% to I would say 5% a month. Of course, it's gonna be like the 10% month, 15% month, sometimes a 20% month. That can happen sometimes, but it's not gonna be the average month to month. Otherwise, you're gonna be risking too much of your account. So if you
Yeah.
look at any kind of measure, right? If you want to make, let's say, 50% a year, then you're gonna be you're probably gonna lose half of that in one drawdown. That's something you can expect. So we look at like the worst case scenario. So you want to make 100% a year, you might lose 50% that year. That's something possible. So all if you look at this in terms of risk with the return, then that makes more sense than just kind of what you want to make in the market, how much money you want to have at the end of the month. And we need to look at the risk first, then the rewards second.
Yeah, that's a great answer, and that's kind of what I was hoping to hear in terms of, a lot of new traders. The first thing that they want to hear is how much can I make from trading, right? When in
Mm-hmm.
reality, that question is like, how the better question is probably like, in good trader situations, what is the worst case that it gets, right? Because it's all about drawdown. It's all about managing, if you're going to have losing streaks and this, that, and the other, it's important to focus more on the negative, which sounds pessimistic, but in trading, it really, really pays, at least in my experience, and from what it sounds like in yours as well. Playing defense is everything. It's so important to sort of be protective of your account and let the profits come later, especially with you've experienced so many different people. You've talked to so many people. It's cool to kind of hear another person who, similar to my own sort of thing I say on my channel, 2 to 5% is a really realistic approach for most general purpose strategies and risk tolerances. Sure, you could have 10% average, but how long are you going to be able to do that without stomaching a 70% drawdown, right? Where you're comfortable with that, cool, but it's going to be there's some tough sides. So of course, that's a key component for sure. So Etienne, are you? of course, you mentioned that you've been traveling. You've been all over the world. I've seen you. I've followed you on socials for long enough. I've seen you all over Thailand and Canada and all different places. Where are you currently? Are you in Canada or?
I'm actually, yeah, in Canada, in the north, so I'm visiting my uncle for a few days here. So it's
Okay,
called Backtesting. It's in the north. Yeah, it's quite far, but it's a cool place.
very very nice. And do you go back and forth between Canada and Thailand?
Yeah, at the least, I didn't really do it too much for the past 2 years because, of course, you all know COVID. So that's been something that kind of restricted me from traveling quite a bit.
Hmm.
But now I'm kind of back, so I'm going back between, yeah, back and forth between Thailand every few months. Every 3 or 4 months, I go back to Canada, see how, like, see family here. I just come back to get a fresh perspective, then go back to Thailand for a few months. That's
Yeah,
the plan. Yeah.
that's so cool. Just a side question too. Is Thailand like really affordable?
Yeah, it's a question I get asked a lot, but the answer is like yes and no, depending on what you spend money on. So you could live like in a
Okay.
really luxury apartment, spend $3,000 4,000 a month on like the apartment, the food, and everything around. Or you could do it the local way, where you spend a lot less money, live like in a small, normal room. That could be fine. You might spend $1,000 a month. Both ways work, depend what you like what your standards are. I began my first like when I came to town the first time I would spend like maybe $20 a day on food and travel and stuff, and then maybe $20 a day on the hotel, and I was fine with
Okay.
it. Now these days I cannot do it anymore. I'm not in these same standards, but you can do both ways totally.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, you know what's funny is I feel like I've seen so many traders land in Thailand because a lot of times, of course, you can trade on the go there. You just need an internet connection. That's pretty much all you need as a trader, and so of course that kind of works out. I wanted to shift gears to Etienne too because of course in recent times you've probably seen the rise of prop firms, right? In the last
Mm.
I guess 5 years, really it's really shot up in a lot of ways. Of course, early on there was FTMO, and now it seems like they've sprung up everywhere. Lots of different prop firms. I wanted to ask, in your experience speaking with different people on your channel and in your own trading, what are your thoughts on prop firms? And sort of, do you have any tips for people who are interested in the funding route? What do you think?
Yeah, so prop firms, like you said, are everywhere now these days, but they're still one of the easiest ways to be able to scale up your own trading. Say you take someone who has like $10,000 in capital, you won't be able to maybe afford trading full time with it, because of course you got to gain. So say if, even if you make like 100% of that per year, it's not gonna be enough to pay your bills plus grow your account. So then you're kind of stuck in that place. You
Hmm.
could go and save money for like years at your job, and like you can do that. I know people who did it for many years. They will work like a pretty good job, save a few $1,000s a year, then invest that in trading, then go full time like 10 years later. But platforms allow you to do it much faster, and that's a good thing, of course. But you need to understand that they're also there to make money, right? So they're going to make
Of
money on the
course.
challenges, and they're going to make money on the training performance. Not all, but most of them will do it that way. So that means that if you're able to pass a challenge and get funding from them, then that's good. You just have to respect the rules. And that's really where risk management comes into play. Like there's a lot more risk management when you trade for a prop firm compared to trading for your own account. Because
Hmm.
yeah, you can have a drawdown on your own account. You can have a little bit more of a drawdown bigger than you expected, and then you can recover, and that's fine. But the prop firms are going to be much more strict because of course they have to make money. They have some rules around it. They cannot just lose a bunch of money on one trader and then kind of be stuck with it after. So risk management is the key thing, and really being able to, I would say, what have the most like building a portfolio. So what if you have like only one strategy for that prop firm? Then you trade that strategy, then you have a really good month, but then a really bad month after. You might have even like a small like 2% loss the next month, but then you have a tough time getting back on track. So what helps is having different strategies like that are not correlated together. So like you have let's say one reversal and then one trending one, or like one breakout one if you want, and then you combine these things usually different pairs that are not too correlated. Because if you trade all the same pairs, of course, they're gonna be all the same. You're gonna lose on all these pairs. It's not
Hmm.
gonna work well. So you wanna have different kind of pairs, different strategies, put it all together, test it over time, see how it performs, and then you have a good portfolio where even if you have like a bad month, you might lose 1%, but you know you can recover with these other strategies, other things on the side to get you back on track. So these two things are really helpful. Picking the platform, of course, with the best terms for you. Not all trading styles will be the same. So like a swing trader might not be good for like FTMO, for example. Naturally, they're going to tweak their programs, add some things, but there are platforms with the 30-day challenge and some with the 6-month challenge. What makes more sense to you? It depends on like how you trade. If you trade many, if you place many trades a day, then you find like a 30-day one maybe, but maybe you have more room to trade with a 6-month challenge in that case. So you got to kind of look at it carefully and pick the term that work best for you.
Yeah, that's really true, and that's something that I've kind of come across at the end over time is like the more people I speak about prop firms, there's it's like another level of thinking about trading, right? Because in trading, obviously you have your drawdowns, your entries, your exits, all those sort of things, risk management models, all that stuff. Then when you trade with a prop firm, the one sort of layer that you add on top of that is finding, like you said, the knowledge of finding the right prop firm that suits your style, because everyone has their own style. Some people are swing traders, day traders, they trade particular assets that may or may not be offered on different prop firms. So it's like adding another layer of like, okay, well, your next concept, once you have all your trading down, is picking a prop firm is really about also finding the one that aligns well with your style. Because if they don't let you hold over weekends and you're a swing trader, that can be a problem. Vice versa, right? If you're a day trader and they give you so little leverage that you can't capture moves or whatever it is, right? So that's like an interesting thing. In your experience, if you'd like to, do you have a favorite prop firm that you have worked with in the past, or that you've heard the best things about?
Yeah, like there's so many of them, so it's hard to keep up with like all the new ones. So I'm gonna maybe go with like the ones that are more established. There's also like the aspect you don't want to have the platform closed down because they're new. They don't have any like backing up of capital or staff
Right.
to maintain it. So that's an issue that you can like you don't want to come across. So I tend to go for the fivers for most people. I know FTMO is a big player too, where they have a lot of different programs. They might be more aggressive. They're more toward, in my opinion, day traders with
Hmm.
FTMO. But the fivers to me is a pretty good one for most people because they have a 6 month challenge, so enough time to complete the whole thing, and they're pretty established as well. So I kind of like that one.
Very cool. There you go. Yeah, no, those are great picks, and I think you kind of pointed at something that was very interesting with prop firms. They're coming up really quick, right? They're springing up all over the place. Choosing one that also sort of is established enough seems to be very, very important, especially recently with this, Etienne, the situation with MetaTrader 4 on iOS. That's a little scary. We don't have to go too far into that, but it is kind of interesting to me because a lot of these prop firms and entire brokerages are built around MetaTrader 4. And it's definitely a sort of an interesting thought like, okay, well, if a lot of iOS users can no longer download MetaTrader, I wonder if a lot of them don't have options like CTrader or other things set up and integrated with the prop firm. I wonder if that's an issue for any of them. Have you thought about that at all?
Yeah, I just think about it a few days ago. So you think about the fact that first of all, like most brokers for forex out there are going to support MT4, MT5. So if the platform like for desktop were to disappear one day, they'll have a lot of trouble for these brokers. So they're going to push as much as they can to not have that, of course.
Right.
And then how many people trade all exclusively on their smartphone? I don't know many people doing that. I think you need a computer to do good trading.
I
And
agree.
even if you were to get there, then I still think, like, let's say you're based, you cannot access MT4, MT5 on your computer because it's blocked there. You could still get like a VPS or something else in a different country and then install your MT4, MT5 there to place trades. So I see it as maybe a small problem, but I don't think it will get as big as like a complete block on MT4, MT5 where you cannot place any trade and you're kind of stuck completely there with no options. I think there would
Yeah.
still be an option to work there.
I certainly hope so. I certainly, I think you're probably right about it, and I definitely, fingers crossed, doesn't get any worse because obviously MetaTrader is the most popular forex platform there is. Which, even though it's old, it's just so, I guess, so consistent for so many people, which is awesome. So Etienne, I'd love to change gears a little bit and ask you just in a little bit more in your trading style. Do you have favorite particular pairs? Do you specialize? What kind of range of assets do you trade? And do you still stick mostly to currencies, or what's sort of your basket of things to trade?
Yeah, so I mostly trade currencies, pretty much all currencies only. I do invest in some stocks for like passive investment, but that's a different thing. But I do like some kind of pairs that are not so common, where people don't trade them all the time. So, for example, I don't like the Euro USD pair. That's the pair that I perform the worst in for all my strategies. So I tend
Interesting.
to not trade that much, not trade that pair too much. But pairs like US Singapore dollar, I like it a lot.
Hmm.
Euro AUD, so Euro Australian dollar, I like it a lot. These pairs that are a little bit more like less traded. These are the pairs I like in general.
Okay. Interesting. So you like the I don't know, does euro or dollar Singapore dollar, does that is that considered a exotic pair?
I guess it is, but it does move crazy like a exotic pair per se. So if you compare it, let's say like the Thai baht, US dollar Thai baht, which is in Thailand, that pair tends to be there's like a lot more move. Of course, the spread will be a lot higher. But US
Yeah.
Singapore dollar is very similar to US CAD, but I like that it kind of moves more clearly in the market. So it's not as
Interesting.
like US CAD is like very like moving really fast sometimes. But US Singapore dollar is a bit more slow and a bit more predictable, in my opinion, of course.
Interesting. Yeah, no, no. I've traded it once or twice back in 2020. I traded it when the Singapore dollar was like crashing. I was
Mhm.
long dollar Singapore dollar. It actually went pretty well for me, which was awesome. Though I bought it, it went well for me, and then it trailed me out. I used trailing stops. It trailed me out of a stop loss, and as soon as it trailed me out, it shot up for another like 3 months, and I was like, oh, I just missed the
Yeah.
bulk of the move. But it seemed to trend very well. So that maybe brings me to the next question. Do you tend to be more of a trend follower? Are you more mean reversion? What approaches do you use most in your trading?
Definitely more reversal for me. It's something that I like the most. Trends, I'm not really good at picking really like 1 to 300 trend. I do have the algo strategy that works for that. But for my own trading, manual and algo mostly, it's reversals.
Cool. Awesome. So you mentioned swing trading. Are you mostly on the 4 hour and daily or 4 hour, 1 hour? What time frames do you focus most
I
on?
do, yeah, 4 hour, 1 hour chart. So 4 hour
Nice.
is good for people who have like a day job or other stuff to do because you don't have to look at the chart all the time. 1 hour is something I do have a lot set up to be able to alert me when there's a setup on the 1 hour chart. So I don't have to look at the chart like all the time throughout the day. But yeah, it works very well together. I found daily for me doesn't work too well. It's a bit too high on time frame, and the moves tend to not work out too well in my strategy. But these two time frame, 4 hour, 1 hour chart work quite well for me.
Very nice. Yeah, that's pretty much where I'm at too. I like the 4 hour, the 1 hour. It's active enough,
Mhm.
but the daily chart is it could be very, very slow, which is
Yeah.
great if you catch a nice daily move, but it's kind of rare to stay in one of those and hold in unless you're very, very patient and more longer term, really, truly, when you're on the daily chart. So you mentioned you trade the dollar, Singapore dollar. You trade. Do you trade any of the majors, or do you stick mostly to one or two pairs?
Yeah, I have a list. I have a list of around 15 pairs I trade. I don't trade them like all the time every day. These are pairs I look at for like certain levels. But I trade most of the majors except Euro USD, and then a few kind of cross and exotic like only the US Singapore dollar. Yeah.
Cool, cool. Do you have any thoughts on what's been going on recently with the euro and the pound and the yen? I mean, that dollar volatility recently has just been wild.
Yeah, I mean it's really good for trend followers for sure. I think there's gonna be a point where it's gonna be a nice place for reversals. We're not there yet. I don't think so yet, but it's kind of trending. So we have to kind of wait. I'm waiting personally for these pairs. So I don't trade trends too much, but I know trend traders have been able to make a lot of good money on these pairs.
Yeah, that's for sure. And I wanted to ask you too. So, are you mostly, from what I know, you seem to be very technical in your trading. Do you use any
Yes,
fundamentals? Are you purely technical? How do you approach that?
purely technical. I believe that all the information we have that's fundamental is going to be reflected in the market one day or the other. It could be now, it could be in advance. People know what's coming up. People expect some things. So I think that what you'll see in the chart is what you're going to get and what makes sense for people. So I don't think like anything is like hidden or people know stuff. I think it's going to be reflected in the market in general.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Yeah, no, I think technicals are an interesting thing to me because I think technicals are a beautiful way, even if you are a purely fundamental trader. One of the biggest, contrarian points to being a fundamental trader is like, okay, you have a direction, but where do you actually get in, and how do you know when you're wrong, and that
Mhm.
sort of thing. And I think that that's the coolest thing to me about technicals is it at least provides you that knowledge of red light, green light a little bit with your trading, if you will, where you put stops and where you put entries and exits and that sort of thing. So, in terms of technical analysis, have you spent a lot of time like back testing? How would you, for new traders who are interested in learning technicals, price action, that sort of thing? What's the best way to get started and to learn those components to your trading?
I know backtesting is annoying. It takes time. It's very long and it's painful sometimes, but it's definitely needed to be able to not just know the stats of your strategy. Like that's one thing for sure. Like you want to know it's profitable, but you also want to see the subtleties in the market, like what things you didn't think about that happens in the market. And you always, personally, I always get ideas when I backtest. I see some things and patterns that I didn't think about, and then it gives me ideas to become better, to improve my own trading. So in the beginning, I did a lot of that. Now what I do is mostly I track my stats. So of course I'll do some backtests when things don't work out too well. I'll see like what things are happening, what things could be better and stuff. But I mostly track my stats. I know what performs well. I will classify my trades to see which trades are not good, which trades are better than others. And this gives me a way to improve and I can find my mistakes really fast that way. So it's kind of like a live feedback thing, live feedback loop. But backtesting and learn about the market, kind of see the charts pattern. That's the thing you don't get with like a automated backtest with an algo. You cannot see what's happening necessarily with the trades, but when you backtest money, you can see that. You can see what works, what doesn't work, and how you can become better next time. So definitely that a lot. And plus chart time, you gotta take some trades, but also track them to see kind of what works and what you like, and then ideas to become better. So I think that's a pretty big key.
Those are great points. And I think like backtesting, it doesn't get talked about enough because the thing about
Mm.
backtesting is it's so not exciting, right? It's not, trading the news release and watching your profit or loss fly around. It's backtesting is like the most boring but necessary component, I think, to trading. It's huge. And then, like you said, it may be even more important is once you do get to the point where you feel comfortable enough to start trading forward, whether it's on demo or even a small live account, that constant feedback loop of comparing your performance. I believe you use MyFXBook. I also use MyFXBook. Is that right, to sort of track your own trading, or do you use something else? Do you use a
Yeah, so I
sheet
use a mix of
spreadsheet?
my Facebook and
Yep.
Trello. So my Facebook is only for like the stats behind it, the numbers. Trello is mostly for like screenshots, being able to see which trades are mistakes, which trades are not, and kind of see the trade in itself. Because in my Facebook, you can't really see like what you enter when you exit on a clear kind of chart. So I use Trello for that. I take screenshots. I put my screenshots there and classify them whether it's like good trade, bad trade, winning or losing, basically.
Yeah, that's perfect. Trello is actually so good for that. It's so because you
Yeah,
can move the tiles around and you can put
exactly.
comments on it. That's actually such a good idea. I feel like I've seen you use that before, and I always thought that was smart. But it's a great way to, you can attach images. For those guys who don't know, Trello is like a board where you can. It's like a big note board where you can just take screenshots, put them in your notes, and it's really awesome. I highly encourage anybody who's struggling journaling your trades. Trello is beautiful for that. And Trello, I guess this is turned into a Trello ad. The cool thing is it allows you to sort of like on the go. You could pull it up on your phone. You could pull it up on a different computer. It's like a cloud based thing, so it's awesome. But yeah, no, I think that's some great tips. And journaling is so key too. Do you journal every trade? How do you when you take a trade, what's your process like for journaling it? Obviously use Trello, but how does that process look like for you?
Yeah, so what I'll do is very simple. Is I'll take a screenshot when I enter the trade, just to see like how the markets appear, what's before that, what I didn't see after sometimes, and then I'll just put that into Trello. Then I'll write in. So I have three different notes. I have a note for the entry, then I have a note for like in the trade if I need to, then a note at the exit. So I'll take two different kind of lines of notes, like how I feel about this trade, what things I'm doing now, and if I spot any mistake I did when entering the trade, I'll put these two on the notes, of course. So I take a quick note like what happened in the trade, and then I'll put a screenshot when the trade is either close or at break even. I'll put a second screenshot, then the third one when it gets closed completely, and I'll have of course a note at this time as well. So I kind of rank myself if it's a good trade, if it's something I spotted that I didn't do well. I'll be honest with myself. Write this down also in my journal on Trello. Then I can go back to these things later when I need to.
That's fantastic. So you journal the whole trade start to finish. You're talking about the entries, talking about the exits. How do you tend to exit your trades? Are you more do you trail stops? Do you put hard take profits? What do your exits look like usually?
So one thing is that I don't want to be there like looking at the charts all the time to be able to pick the right exit level in the market. So I don't want to be the guy who's necessarily looking at these trades like every day. I want to have some maybe day off sometimes. I don't want to think about it too much. So what I do is I have a fixed take profit. That's based on some backtesting, some tests I've done, see what's like the best take profit for my own strategy. There's
Hmm.
not to be around 3 to 1 of reward to risk. So I put my take profit at 3 to 1. But then the other one, I'll either have a 1 to 1, so like I'll close half of the trade at 1 to 1, or it's gonna be a trading stop loss depending on like the condition if it's a trend or not. So I take some partial profit, then wait for the 3 to 1 to exit my full trade.
Very cool. Yeah, I feel like from the last couple interviews that I've had, I know you've spoken to Akil Stokes. He had a similar model where he
Mm-hmm.
was, talking about taking partials with a letting a bit of the trade run as well. So it's always cool to hear different people's exit strategies, and partials seem to be a pretty popular one because it allows you to sort of take some profit out of the trade early on while still letting it run for potential 3R or 4R, whatever you like, which I think is awesome. How do you usually, so you mentioned that you trade reversals. Do you wait for, this is just a preference thing, I think too. Do you wait for confirmation? Like, do you look for candlesticks to show rejection and then enter afterwards? Or do you just take things at zones? Like, how do you constitute a reversal? Do you trade zones or wait for confirmation of some sort?
Yeah, I gotta have the confirmation for sure. I know some guys trading similar things with no confirmation, just looking at like buying and selling at the zone. Personally, I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't be comfortable with it. That's part of like understanding yourself and what you perform best with. So I wait for a candlestick, then I'll usually put my order below the low or above the high. Just have some more certainty that the price will actually go there. I found like most of the trades that are actually losers, price doesn't go beyond the high or beyond the low. So I'm kind of saving a lot of losing trades that way by waiting to enter a few pips below the low or a few pips above the high, of course.
There you go. Yeah, no, that's great. I think that's a great answer. So that's the thing is I always say this when I have a guest who, when you throw technical questions, they have very specific, already planned out answers. That is how I think a lot of our viewers should think about their trading. Like if somebody has these questions ready for you, you should be able to answer them pretty quick because, a lot of people out there, it's amazing, Etienne. I'm sure you've seen this as well. It's like so many people, they're just sort of throwing money around in the markets without plans, without strategies, without truly having their full process thought out. So I guess my closing question, my last question for you would be people who don't have a plan, who don't even know how to get started. What's the best sort of starting out advice for the brand new people who are like, okay, these guys seem to know a little bit of what they're talking about, but how do I get to that point someday? What's your just general advice for new traders to get started?
Well, it's going to be more complex than you think, but what I recommend people is to, if you have been in trading for a while, like you've learned some stuff already, what you do is you try to take like a sheet of paper, you put this on your desk, then you write down all the stuff you know about trading, like all the tools, all the instruments, all the things you've learned about, all the like support resistance areas is one, Bollinger Band could be one, moving average could be one. All these things you know about the market, you write them down. Then you look at which one you understand well, which one you like, and then you kind of note these ones. Then you'll try to make something that you can trade with these different tools. Now you want to break it down because of course you need like to have some place to look at the zone. You need a place to look at the like maybe an indicator with it. You need to look at a place for price action, like what kind of price action you want to look at. And you see with these things, is there something I'm missing? Am I missing some price action knowledge, or am I missing some zones, some market environment knowledge? So whatever you lack in is something you have to learn more of. You have to focus on. But then the other things you gotta try to like put it together. So when you have something for all these categories, so we talk about the market environment, the zone, the price action, the indicator, and the entry. You have all these things in place, these kinds of rules you like. You can put it together, then kind of piece it and make a strategy from it. So of course it takes time. It's not going to be done like an hour or a day for sure. It takes a bit of work, but we need to be able to create something that works for you. Because if you just go online like find a strategy, it's going to take you a while to find something, and then you'll like maybe do it one day or maybe a week max, and drop it and then go to something else. We don't want to have that. We want to start
Yep.
to build on our own experience, practice it, and do something that works. So by taking things you learn already, you can always go back in depth and like learn these things more for sure.
Yeah.
Definitely. You can always
No,
add some
I
things
think
to
that's
it,
great.
but you have a base for making your strategy, and then you can kind of own it down and focus on that to make something that will work for you long term after.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And I think, you made it personal enough where it's like, okay, the true answers to your trading career and journey, they're found truly within. It sounds a little cliche or whatever, but it's true. Like you have to look at yourself and say, where am I weakest and work on those areas and where am I strongest and, continue to improve those as well. Like it's about a personal journey more than anything else. Cause somebody on an article about a trading strategy is not gonna be able to answer your specific issues that you're facing. That can only really truly be answered by yourself. Etienne, it's been a pleasure to have you on as always. Before I let you go, where can people find you if they want to hear more from you or contact you or learn more from you in the future?
Yeah, I'm on YouTube, pretty much all social media out there. So Desire to Trade is the company name, the website you can find me in. DesireToTrade.com is going to be the website. YouTube the same, Twitter the same. Of course, Facebook, Instagram, I'm there. And I'll be happy to answer questions, support you people, and yeah, answer any question I can and help them out. No worries.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, we'll also make sure to include the links down below in the description for people to find you guys. Make sure to go subscribe, go follow wherever he is. It's worth the follow. Like I said, I've been a fan for years. So Etienne, thank you very much for coming on and hopefully we can do it again soon in the future.
Yeah, anytime. I appreciate it.
All right. See you later.